funny.
An inmate at the Salinas Valley State Prison, Soledad, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hello.
Hey, Free, it's always good to hear your voice, and I'm sorry about having to leave so abruptly. This particular phone number is used by about 20 different prisoners, and some of them get thrown in the hole, and when they call, after we haven't talked to them in a long time, it's critical that I receive the call, but don't ever feel like you're a burden or a problem. It's never a problem, and it's always good to hear your voice. Also, I got a big manila envelope from you this afternoon. I won't get a chance to digest it probably until Monday, but I did get a big envelope from you.
Okay, good. As to the first thing you said, I was going to say to you, anytime that any other prisoner calls when I'm on with you, being that I seem to get a lot more access than they do, by all means interject immediately. Just totally interrupt me. It's fine. I'm totally okay with that, Rudy, honest. Okay. Interrupt me, tell me you got another call for one of them, I'll hang up immediately and give them a chance, because I'll have more opportunity than them. I totally understand.
No, and
good.
Yep, and I appreciate your attitude. And just real quickly, I'm kind of under attack. I exposed some law enforcement officials who put 2 bullets in a man's head and 2 bullets in his chest. They attempted to murder him, and now they're throwing him in the hole, and they won't let him writing letters to me. And they're attacking my YouTube channel, trying to get my YouTube channel taken down. And so it's a constant war. It's a spiritual battle. We're going to trust in the Lord and keep doing what's right. But just to let you know, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the background, and we're trying our best. One warden at one prison in Illinois has banned me from communicating with any prisoners. But we're not going to shut up. We're going to keep advocating for innocent political prisoners, and we praise God that you have a strong voice, and you've got a bunch of people that love you, PF Lazor. And I can tell you that the more I learn about people that on the outside that care about you, the more impressed I am. So you know a man by his friends, and you got a lot of good friends.
Yeah, well, thank you for that compliment, and believe me, a compliment to all of them. I appreciate them too. Okay, let me move on to some things here. I just saw on TV 115 people every day die from opioid overdoses. That's more than ever were killed in Vietnam War. Next time you talk to parole board people, or if you wish to contact John Peck, who is my commissioner that denied me parole, maybe you could mention to him, give him a pat, see if he wants to give himself a pat on the back for some of that, because when I was out there, I was doing so much against drug abuse as a celebrity, and I was going to become a much bigger celebrity than the relatively small celebrity I was. I would have done a lot to help curb that, and it wouldn't be as bad as it was. One person can make a huge difference, and it wouldn't be near as bad as it is today. So I just I like to kind of rub that into those clowns that denied me my parole.
Yeah.
Because I would still be doing that, when I get out there, that kind of thing. A number of things here. The class of 72, I have the website for that. Did you ever get it, or do you want it?
I want it.
My graduate. Okay, here it is. It actually just says http:// but it doesn't say www, but you can figure that out. I guess you usually need the www too. And the rest of it is SLH, which stands for Southline High. So it's SLH72.com.
Okay, I'm bringing it up now. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. I see it.
I got your photos from your UPS thing. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. You've done a great job on that. Real quickly, because I got a lot of stuff I wanted to try to get through here on the phone today with you. I wrote a list, but how is John Lamb doing? Any word?
Yes, he's recovering. He's still got like 9 months of crushed foot, some rehabilitative stuff, but he's moving in the right direction. He's still in a lot of pain, so he needs our prayers. But thank you for asking, and we love John Lamb so much, and he's moving in the right direction, and he has a lot of people that love him and are praying for him. Yep.
Well, he has my prayers and Gail's and Ken Masat's. I think it was Ken and Gail told me they tried to reach him by that phone number we have, and nobody can get through to his family or anybody on that line. And we don't have an address or email address. So if you could get any of that information, I won't have you relayed here on the phone for time's sake, but if you could get that information to Gail and Ken, maybe you could ask them to relate it to me if he has an available address, his family. I mean, they'd love to, give his wife and children some comfort, too, if they can.
You bet. Yeah, you bet.
Let's see. Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, anybody in here that asks me about age, it's no longer on my ID cards, and everybody in here that asks me, I tell them I'm 29.
Okay.
So, I give them a wink, and we all kind of. But biologically, I'm a lot closer to that than I am to my real age.
Yeah,
so,
no problem.
Anyway,
no problem.
I keep myself. I can. Okay, there's probably not one white man on this yard that can outdo me in pull-ups at my age, at any age.
Wow.
That can outdo me in pull-ups right now, and probably only about 2 people of everybody in the yard that can. Okay. Anyway, Amicus Curie, Ken Bassat wants...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I also, since he talked to my attorney, Eric Weaver, and the attorney surprisingly did not discourage him from doing that. So I don't know if you know anything about those or how to do them. I don't know a lot about them. I've asked the courts many times over past years, not lately, but past years, to allow me to. I thought you need to ask permission and to also set up a system where we can request from bigger agencies and such, and they've never allowed it or responded. But Ken seems to think that anybody can just do it. So if that's right, if he's correct, I want to really encourage anybody and everybody that wants to, that knows enough about the law and about my case and arguing legal stuff to put in an amicus curiae brief on this case before the judge rules. If that's not something you know enough about, then you can just let that bypass you. I have a list here of some of the abuses done to me besides those few affidavits I've sent to you, like the Harwood affidavit and the somewhat redacted Sutton affidavit are in that big envelope you have. And you also have a second big envelope that's on its way to you and you should receive in a day or two. But I wanted to say that of these abuses, a lot of these things are related to rule violation reports, all false, of course. And I want to say that every single one of these, this is the kind of stuff I want to put out there to the public, every single rule violation report I've ever received and been found guilty of, except a couple that have been reversed, which is very few, have given me a life without the possibility of parole sentence. Not legally and not de jure, so to speak, but de facto, that's what they are. Because that's what the parole board uses every time I go to the parole hearing to say, well, you're never going home as long as you keep getting these. And the guards and others, employees of CDC, will keep issuing them. So I just want everybody to know I did 8.5 years of my murder sentence, which completed it, and I've done 25 years more on about 60 life without the possibility of parole sentences illegally given in a covert way for every one of the rule violation reports I've ever received. Whether it was just being on the phone out of turn or being on the yard when they said I wasn't supposed to be, but I, in fact, was not even out on the yard. I was right where I was supposed to be. I wanted to also put this out before I go into some of these things, the specifics here, is I want people to picture, most people have seen some of the movies, the Taken movies with Liam Neeson, and you see the camaraderie. Are you familiar with them?
Well,
the kidnapped daughter and kidnapped wife and such?
I believe so, yeah. I believe I have seen those.
Okay, they're great movies, very high-action movies, but for those who are familiar with it, if you look at the camaraderie that Liam Neeson has with his ex-CIA agent buddies, I mean, they risk their lives for each other, they give their lives for each other, they're there in a second, behind them and for them for anything, no matter what. They come, I hate to say it, but almost before family. But the reason I'm mentioning this is I want people to understand that that's exactly the mentality of CDC officers for the most part. There's some good in that. I mean, in police on the street, you have to back up your partner. You have to be there for him, risk your life for him. And in here, there's really not that much that goes on that requires that. But in here, it's mostly really bad apples that have used that for bad purposes. They will join a bandwagon of their comrades to do what's evil against another prisoner. So I just want people to get that image of how powerful that camaraderie is between them. Okay, from there I want to go, and this is somewhat, for the most part, in order. I've just selected out various incidences that CDC abusers have done to me over the years. I'm going to try to make these as quickly as possible, just giving some of the key highlights, and also I have affidavits for a lot of these that haven't been destroyed, that I just have to dig out of storage, and I'll get them to you over a period of time. The first one I want to mention is at CMC East Prison, Sergeant S. Lemon, about 380 pounds, big man. I mentioned him the other day. I have 13 declarations on this. What happened is he was the guy that was trying to throw me over upper story rail. He was actually peeling my hands off the rails to make sure that he got me on head first down onto the jagged concrete below and dead. And his own officer, whose name was Andrade, if I remember correctly, stepped in and grabbed him and jerked him back, saved my life. And once he kind of came out of his startled state, which was like almost like a mesmerized, hypnotized state, he knocked me to the ground on the stairs and kept putting his boot in my face and my chest, screaming at me to get up and hit him, because he wanted to accuse me of assault on staff, and that's why he did that. Of course, I wouldn't do that. There were over 200 or 300 people that saw this, some from inside the dining hall, which was where this upper story thing was, 150, 200 people in the dining hall, another 150 or so people outside where he just grabbed me by the belt with one hand and my collar by the other hand and dragged me across the room, across the dining room, out onto the little landing and over the rail. So that's number one. Number two, and they threatened of 60-some people who originally told me they would write affidavits. They went around for 2 or 3 days and threatened everybody. If anybody wrote witness to this, that they would end up like me, or end up dead in the hole, and never get parole. So out of those 60-some that originally agreed, 13 of them eventually did do their affidavits for me. Okay, next one, San Quentin Prison, 1987. By the way, the CMC one was in 85. I think it was April of 85. Okay, April of 1987, San Quentin Prison, another really big corn-fed guard, probably bigger than Stacy, heavier than Stacy. Bigger and heavier than Lemon, the one I just mentioned before. This one's name was B.E. Stacy. I think he just retired not many years ago from CDC with a full pension. He planted a weapon in my cell, which was interesting. He wrote me 3 rule violation reports at one time: one for the possession of a weapon, one for a secret informant telling him that I had this weapon, that I was going to use it on him, and a third one for supposedly disobeying an order the day before. Well, when I appealed these things administratively within the prison system, they found that he lied about the informant, so there never was an informant that put him onto this, which should have cued them to also throw out the weapon one, but they didn't. Later I realized and found out that I was put in the hole about 7 o'clock in the morning for possession of that weapon, and it wasn't until hours after
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
maybe about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that they claimed they found it in my cell in a tray port that anybody was open for ever since 7 in the morning, that anybody could reach in and plant it there. So he told me later, he came up to me later when I was almost dead in a wheelchair in the hole, and laughed in my ear, telling me, I told you I was going to throw you in the hole and you'd never see daylight. How do you like me now? So what started all that was when I first got to San Quentin in May of '86, is I was studying the Federal Reserve System in my cell late at night, maybe 2, 3 in the morning, and I had a book open that had pictures of dollar bills and such, printed on the pages.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Hey.
Dollars have changed over time, and a guard. Go ahead.
DG Parham, can you hear me, Lazor? DG Parham phone number and email does not work.
Yeah, David Parham.
Yep. The Stanford prison experiment in the 1960s is all about, exactly what you are talking about, that they cover for each other. So I completely understand that. And
I know. I used to be in person.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Bardo and I used to write back and forth.
Wow.
I was the one that did that study. I'm very familiar with it.
Okay. Did you get the postcard and the business cards? Did you get the sample?
Milgram's.
Yep. Milgram's experiment too. Yes. Did you get the business card I sent?
Milgram's is important also. Okay, I'm going to try to call you. right back because it's going to cut us right now. Is that okay?
That's fine, Lazor. Okay. God bless.
Okay, let me give it a try. We'll get at least a few minutes more, maybe.
Okay, all right.
This is Global Tel-Link. You have a free.
Free.
An inmate at the Salinas Valley State Prison, Soledad, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
Hi, Rudy.
Hey, Lazor. So, you already know about the Stanford prison experiment, and you all know about the Milgram experiment.
Yeah,
I'm completely
very familiar.
Okay.
Very familiar with it. By the way, we're only going to get about 5 to 6 minutes right now, and then I have to give the phone over to somebody else.
I understand. Okay, you heard me. You heard me that DG Parham. I can't get a hold of him. Both of those information that you gave me are not working, and I hope you got the sample business card. I'll let you have the rest of the time.
Okay. When you go to that South Lyon High School website, you should, hopefully there'll be an updated, contact for David Parham. He should be in there.
Okay.
Okay, let me go back to this. As I was saying, the whole thing that set up my problems with the guards at San Quentin, even though they had, the green wall, before the official green wall, the cops in their network would pass around my name and such. But one of the things that really set it off is this guard on the gun rail thought that he saw real money in my cell. It was a picture that was in a book. So he didn't do his job right, and so in the morning they hit my cell, they tore it apart for a whole day, like 20 hours in my cell while I'm in a cage, and that set off my whole life really bad with all the guards that were networked at San Quentin. From there, Stacy had begun stealing personal property out of my cell, like radios and TVs and different things like that. And I filed a bunch of complaints on it. His superiors didn't believe me, and then they caught him in the act one day, dressed him down in front of me, and that's why he told me he was going to bury me in the hole, and I'd never see daylight again because he got busted on my behalf. And they dressed him down in front of me and embarrassed him in front of me, telling him that he was going to replace those things. He never did. But that's how the whole Stacy incident with a planted weapon came about. I've never had a weapons charge again, ever, in CDC, just that one, and he admitted to my face that he planted it. Okay, going on to the next one. Pelican Bay State Prison, the very infamous worst prison in the country for some years. 1994 to 96, I was there. That entire time, I had a hit contract out of me to murder me. Later, Michael Powers, who was a guard, and Mr. Garcia, but Powers was the one that had set me up for the hit contract, at least in part. Both he and Garcia and another...
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
David Gene Lewis, very vicious guy, all got convicted of manslaughter because they were soliciting the Aryan Brotherhood gangsters up there to stab and kill child molesters. I don't know if they ever falsely accused me of being a child molester, but I think they falsely accused me of being a snitch, which gets the same thing, and that's how they had this hit contract on me. So I had a hit contract on me at Pelican Bay for a whole year and a half, and nobody even knows how I survived it. I know it was Yahweh's intervention. But those guys did eventually do prison time for their crimes. Unfortunately, they only got manslaughter where they committed numerous murders that they solicited. Going on to the next one, by the way, I'm going to come back to that Pelican Bay as an important thing because later on in 1999, I go back up there. There was another thing tied to that, but I'm going to go on in chronological order here. November 1991 at California Medical Facility, Joseph Romero, inmate, set me up. He was a cellmate that I didn't want, couldn't get rid of him. They will not let you choose cellmates a lot of times. He planted escape paraphernalia, i.e. homemade keys that he had made, in my in property in my cell, inside my fan, and went and told the cops it was mine. I even helped them find it because I didn't know it was there. When they were looking for my fan, I helped them find my fan. They couldn't find it on their own. It was inside a locker behind some clothes. Guy said he's got the horn. Okay, all right. So anyway, let me get my thoughts back here. Romero worked with the staff, and the staff worked with Romero to set me up. They found his fingerprints on all the diagrams for the keys and such. There was also a bunch of diagrams written from his handwriting. They found all that, and the State Department of Justice found all his on it. They identified him and none of mine, of course. And yet they hid all that information, found me guilty of it. To this day, I'm still riding that beef for that, even though they knew it was him all the time. And they gave him a pat on the back for setting me up and sent him to where he wanted to go, to another nicer place, and just tore my life apart. I lost my marriage over that. I lost my wife over that. One more we may fit in here, Sentinella for 1999 to 2001. Officer named Grady, who's a very vicious, very, very competent martial artist, a guard. He had had another guy named Grey Wolf stabbed in the back real bad. I saw right after the stabbing occurred, I saw him waiting for about an hour for medical attention with the knife hanging out of his back. Anyway, there was I can't give you this prisoner's name. He's the ex-skinhead shot caller. He's the only reason that my life was saved. And for a year and a half at that prison, I didn't get stabbed because he converted to Christianity because of me at another prison. And he told the skinheads that if they touched me, he would kill them, even though he was a Christian. And they've all backed off. They knew he meant business. So that kept me alive at Sentinella from 1999 to 2001 when Grady had the hit on me. And Grady was promoted shortly after he did another thing. I'll have to wait till another phone call to divulge. He was promoted to sergeant, which is what they've often done for the cops that have done some really nasty, mean things to me. So it's...
Free, one thing I noticed...
It's about time.
Okay. No, one thing I noticed is you used a term called shot caller, and I understand what you're talking about. I bet a lot of the audience does not understand.
Wait, Rudy,
yes?
Rudy, I can't hear... Wait. I can't hear you speak. And I've got about 20, 30 seconds, so
okay.
Go ahead again. I couldn't hear you.
Can you explain to the audience what a shot caller is? I know what a shot caller is, but can you?
Oh, a shot caller is like the head guy that orders the lower guys to do what they're ordered to do. It's like a military hierarchy.
Right. Nobody gets beat up unless
the top guy.
Yes, gotcha. We're praying for you, Free, and thank you for
unless the top guy. Okay. All right. Thank you, Rudy.
All right.
Take care.
Okay.
All right, bye.
God bless. Bye-bye. All right, just in case you guys don't know, he used a prison term there. I'm sure many of you do know already. The shot caller. Nobody gets beat up, and nobody gets stabbed, and nobody gets shanked unless it's approved by the shot caller. And if you're in prison, you want to be the shot caller. You don't want to be the one getting shots called against you. All right, take care. God bless. We're going to pray for P.F. Lazor that he gets out of prison.